keep yourself occupied, or you may just, open parenthesis, image of a parrot falling off a perch, close parenthesis. And you know I'm right, don't you? Ages ago, I mentioned in a video of mine about a chap, and we were talking about hobbies, talking about a chap that I used to do a bit of gardening work for because I was a landscaper, but I also did like garden maintenance, a few of those just to keep things going. And he was a chap that worked in Manchester, worked in an office in Manchester all his life, and then he retired. And when he retired, he came home and he sat down, and I was doing his garden, and I could see him through the window sitting there staring at the telly. The telly may have been off, he may have just been staring into the middle distance because he was a lost soul. And I said to him, come out in the garden with me for a chat. I hate gardening. I said, well, just make a brew and come out and have a chat. Everything will be good. You can't just sit there. Oh, it's awful. Everybody said retirement was going to be great and it's terrible and I hate it. And I couldn't get him out. And he'd worked a half a century, he'd worked all his life just so he could have a few years of retirement in peace. And he sat there, and I went one day and his neighbour said he died. And I actually got a bit of grief for this, because when I said that, I actually said jokingly, which was a shame because I lost one of my customers, and I got a bit of grief off somebody who doesn't understand gallows humour, but he was a lovely man and it was a terrible shame. And that's like a salutary lesson. That's the way. You've got to keep yourself occupied. I talk a lot in some of my videos about the importance of hobbies and keeping yourself occupied for your sanity, but I think it's a little more fundamental than that. I think throughout our lives we keep ourselves occupied both physically and mentally for a certain proportion. I think probably 40 to 60% of our potential we keep ourselves from completely dormant mentally and physically to mentally and physically completely frenetic. And we do this, and I think it averages out at about 40 to 60%, which is not to be sniffed at. I mean, look at people like Einstein. I think he was used up about 85 to 90% of his potential. And look what a mess he was. On the flip side, to coin a phrase, I don't think James Corden does a lot of jogging. I do think that keeping yourself occupied physically and mentally as much as you can goes a long way to giving you the longest life you can possibly lead. And I don't mean you have to be a complete zealot. I mean, I used to run marathons. I used to spend my spare time climbing hills and mountains and rock climbing in the Lake District. I used to go ultra cycling. I'd get on my bike and go 120 miles, and then one day on the 7th of March 2008 at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had a heart attack that instantly ended all that, a lifetime. And that ended. And overnight, I had a bypass and I recovered from that. And that recovery from that made huge fundamental differences in my life. I had to change my habits overnight. I had to recalibrate and rethink how I'd got my leisure. And I did. And I carried on absolutely fine. I think as you get older, and this goes for you young guns too, because eventually with a bit of luck you'll get there too, and you will actually get there before you realise it. But I think as you get older you also need to carry on pushing your mind and your body as much as you can, but now only to as far as you feel comfortable. It's all right going for the burn, it's all right absolutely wrecking yourself. We haven't got the recovery time we did. Our muscles and our limbs aren't as supple. We have to realise that injuries now, we don't bounce anymore. Injuries last, injuries are life-changing, and injuries are life-ending. But it's important that you push your mind, push your body. Pushing your body. Go for a walk. I go for a walk out here. But now, after about 2 hours, my hip hurts and my back hurts a bit. So we go home and we have a rest. And then we come out again. I know sometimes it's your heart to realise that you can't do what you did and that your youth's gone over, and there may still be things that you'd like to do, there may be things you'd like to continue to do, but I think we all have to accept the vagaries and the march of time. And I don't think that's any bad thing, because we've done it, we've been there, we've worked all our lives, we've flogged our guts out. I think it is time to be able to sit and reflect and take your time and enjoy your last few years. But it is still important to keep yourself occupied to get those last few years. When I talk about exercise, you have to cut your cloth. It's a case of just keeping occupied. It's a case of, if you can still go to the gym and you can still go running in your later years, do it. If you can't, don't beat yourself up. Go for a walk. Go for a nice walk until you're absolutely knackered. Come home, sit down, have a brew. You'll feel like you've done something. You will feel like you've achieved something. The day will have been great, especially when you're out in weather like we're having today, which is absolutely beautiful. If you can't go out walking, just walk to another room. Walk to another view, another window. Keep yourself as occupied as you can. It doesn't matter what stage of ambulance or mobility you are, as long as you kind of push yourself within that envelope. So if you're fit enough and agile enough and wick enough to go out and run a marathon at 8 years old, get out there and do it. If you're fit enough to take a walk around your local park, get out there and do it. If you're fit enough to sit in a wheelchair and squeeze a ball or do breathing exercises, do it. It's what you can do, and you will get a feeling of having done something, having achieved something, because there's nothing worse, is there, than just sitting and doing nothing, because that gives you time to think about sitting and doing nothing. And there's nothing worse than sitting and doing nothing to make you worry about sitting and doing nothing. Keep your mind active. Now, this is one thing that I think we are still competitive with. Not always does time dull your mind. I'm as wick as I always was. I'm as bright, I'm as quick, I'm as articulate as I always was, which wasn't very much anyway, but I'm still eager for debate. My mind is still ticking over. That's one thing that sometimes time robs from us, but if we're lucky, and so far I have been lucky, my mind is still agile. I want to debate. People get fed up because I do pick up on things that people say, because I just have this urge to just have debate, as long as it's friendly, it's competitive, it's like as gladiatorial as I can get in my dotage. But keep yourself occupied, keep your mind occupied, read, listen to audiobooks, listen to discussions, read, write, craft, do crafts, because not only do crafts good for your hands, they're good for your mind. Do a jigsaw. People will scoff, oh, a jigsaw. No, it's keeping your mind going. Anything but sitting on the bloody couch, staring at the screen and wondering why you're sitting on the couch, staring at the screen. And the longer you do that, we all know this, when you're not well and you have time off work and you sit on the couch, even when you feel better, you still don't feel so good, because you've been sitting on the couch and now all you want to do is sit on the couch. You lose the will the enthusiasm, the motivation to get up and at 'em again. And that could be the same with old age. It creeps up. And then you've got stereotypes. People think of us old people as all in our dotage, all sitting about. I hear this all the time. Oh, boomer, oh, old people. Younger people who have absolutely no experience of being older than they are, because it's impossible to have any experience of being older than you are, mock older people, and they have this stereotype, and they think they know. They actually think they know what old people are going through. Oh, these old people, they all just a sweeping statement. Oh, they're all just sitting about sucking words as originals and buying ornaments and buying food for the cat and sitting there and listening to the Archers and Desert Island Discs and watching Bake Off. You couldn't be further from the truth. Most of the people I know of my age are, I tell you what, they could beat most young people down in an argument because we've been here longer. So we've got more knowledge of current affairs, things like that. Over the years, by osmosis, you're taking information and you can use that information in debate. So don't worry as you get older about your mind going. Just make sure you exercise it a bit. Make sure you exercise your mind a bit. Make sure you exercise your body a bit. That's what it's all about. Get out here. Look at the sun. The sun is coming through the trees, casting long shadows because it's only about 7:45 in the morning now. The sky is very pale blue. I think it's going to get a deeper blue as the sun gets up. There are birds to my right. You can hear them. Molly's really darting about in the grass this morning. She wasn't very well. She didn't eat yesterday. Spoke to a couple of people when we were about. Spoke to one of my viewers when we were out yesterday. We were talking about that. And then she didn't eat, and then she was sick this morning when she got up. But now she's absolutely fine because she's an old lady and she has tummy complaints. But a great lesson to us all. Once she feels better, she's up and at 'em and running again. And that, I think, is because animals live on instinct. Animals live on primal instincts. They just live for the moment. Whereas we live by expectations. Oh, I feel ill, therefore I must sit on the couch. And when you sit on the couch, therefore I must watch the telly. And there is a certain amount of time I've got to sit here because that's dictated by society, because somebody's told me to, and it doesn't work like that. Even we as humans should work on our instincts. Keep ourselves going, keep our minds going. You've got to keep your mind going. Keep your body going as much as you can within your own comfort zone. Do not feel, never feel that you aren't doing enough when you're doing enough. If you work within your own confines, if you exercise within your own confines, you are doing as much as can be expected of you, and that's all that can be expected of you. So keep yourself occupied. Or you might just, open parenthesis, image of a parrot falling off a perch, close parenthesis. We shall see you on the flip. Peace and love.